Okay, so here is a guide on how to use the Autochopper preset once you've downloaded and installed everything, like in some of the other videos. I got into how to use it a little bit, but I want to just go a little bit deeper. So the first thing to remember is how this works. It's driven by a single C1 MIDI note. So whenever you want to do some auto chopping in your session, just make a MIDI region and then draw a long C1 note for as long as you want the action to happen. And then the next thing is you're going to need to load in something to chop up. This could be an ambient sound, this could be noise, this could be a drum break, it could be really whatever you want to trigger in a sequence. You're going to need the channel strip setting loaded up. Make sure the scripter is there. You should see these two controls, a lower note and an upper note. We're going to change these depending on what sample we drop in. So let me just drop in a couple samples so you can see this in action. So let's drop in something from the Vision Magnet pack. This is like an ambient sample. You can see that the sample is longer than the number of regions in the slice mode that we have to work with. So sometimes if I want to take pieces from like all over the place, I'll leave it on the transient mode. You could also draw these in manually if you have a specific thing you want to do. Like if you put it in manual mode, you can draw in markers like this. But usually it's faster and works pretty well just to leave it on transient. And then I'll drag the sensitivity either up or down depending on where I want this to go. So let me put it here so it's going to be jumping around throughout the whole thing. I like to have gate, play to end, flex time, and follow tempo all turned on. Because that way it'll help keep it in time with the session. Maybe you don't want that. You could always turn that off and experiment. But from here, we should be good to go. Let me just put this on looping and start over here. Oh, I'm modulating the pitch. Let me just turn this off. Yeah, I could mess around. Let me leave it here, actually. I kind of like that. No, maybe not. Let's leave it here. Let's leave it on, and I'll just open up the filter. Right? So from here, it's just gonna go. Like that's kind of the whole gist of it. And then if you want to record the output either in audio or MIDI, you can do that and manually edit what this is creating. But then you can also adjust the amp envelope depending on what you want to happen. So that's like a more ambient sound. Let me try something more rhythmic. Let's see what this is. Forget what the sample actually is. Now you see, this is a drum sample, but we're hearing, this is one of mine actually. This is from one of the core samples from any of the all bases covered ones, either the dubstep pack or the UKG one. But you see how we're getting gaps in the sound? So here's what we can do to fix that. First of all, I want to catch more of the individual drum hits. So I'm going to turn the sensitivity up to catch like a lot of them. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Let's have one here. And then we need to make sure that the first note here corresponds to the lower note on the script as well as the last one. So the last one here is F sharp 3. So I'm going to change the upper note to F sharp 3. Go here. Great. So that's chopping about how I would expect it to. Let's do a couple more just so I can problem solve and you can watch how it's kind of done here. This is another one of ours, one of the all bases covered core samples. This one actually worked okay without doing very much. I just would want to change the upper note to G4 to be thorough here. So we could do that. But that's really the main thing you have to manage is just the sample length is going to change what the upper and lower note parameters are. Yeah, same thing pretty much for most of these. Let's do the amen and then we'll call it because this is the classic. Okay, so here's an interesting thing. In this sample, I want to cut up just the break, which is this, not the stuff with all the horns. So in this case, what I would do is just get rid of the slice markers up here. Takes just a second. And move this to the first drum hit I want. Again, is going to be C1, and then the last one is F3. So we're just going to come to the third octave, find the F, and there we go. Yeah, that's playing pretty nicely. So hopefully you get the idea. You just have to manage the upper and lower note depending on the length of the sample you dragged in, and usually just adjust this sensitivity control to get it chopping the way you would want. Then the rest is all just a matter of like what kind of sound do you want to make? Do you want to modulate stuff? Do you want it to be more of an organic sound, more of like a glitchy thing by modulating like pitch or the filter or any of that? Or changing the amp envelope or putting effects after it. Those are all things you can do, but this should be enough to get you up and running and just using it as it's kind of intended to be used.